Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. Welcome to Shifting Perspectives. If you are new to my channel, I am a philosopher, psychologist, sociologist of 30 years. Right now, I am analyzing, internalizing, and projecting. It is the archaic learning system of our cognitive core. I'm going to be using a lot of terms that, if you are new to the channel, you probably are going to be hearing for the first time. There is a logical fallacy in here, and it's driving me nuts. Logical fallacies create an emotion inside of all of us human beings called cognitive dissonance. I'm going to be defining all of these terms down below at the end of the video so that, oh, you know what? I can do it right now, actually. Let me go ahead and just fill this in. So cognitive core, I'll define that here in a moment, and then logical fallacy, that is from philosophy, and then cognitive dissonance. So I can feel the cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance basically is a spectrum. It starts off feeling discomfort, and that leads to pain. It's literally pains are not okay. Here we go. So cognitive dissonance is on a spectrum, and it goes from comfort all the way up to pain. And if the pain is severe enough, it switches over to trauma, where rewiring of the nervous system begins. That's cognitive dissonance. It's literally the feeling of unease or discomfort. We are logical beings, and when we are filled with illogic or irrationality, we develop cognitive dissonance. We are hypersensitive. Oh my God, we are hypersensitive to a lack of logic. And because of this, we have an emotion, cognitive dissonance, that literally is developed just from logical fallacy. So when you feel unease or discomfort, or I don't know, just something doesn't feel right, what you are actually feeling is illogic, logical fallacy. And I'm getting that real strong with internalizing and projecting. So internalizing versus projecting are basically internalizing. Let's define that. Internalizing is when you take a subject and you learn it. Literally, it's when you learn a lesson. It's when you learn. Projection is reciprocity. It's a kind of reciprocity. It's a mirroring thing that we do. It's broken, basically. When we're traumatized, it's broken. And so trying to fix this, we have to define exactly what it is. It's the mirroring response that we do. So internalizing is actually how we learn. For instance, when you internalize a lesson, you take it in and you learn it. It's the full processing. Now, when you have learning, you have three types of learning. You have the mimic stage, you have the repetition stage, and then you have the internalization stage. So basically, when you are internalizing, when you over-internalize, logical conclusion, what has happened is you have an imbalance of learning, where you are learning the wrong thing, where you are learning the wrong lesson. Yeah, you're overlearning. This happens because you have a filter that's broken. Your filter isn't working. Because your filter isn't working, all of the data is coming into your internalization core. All of it is being dumped into your cognitive core. Your cognitive core is basically your processing, your perspective processing. That's the best way to put it. It is my term that I created for my project, for my method of learning, to better explain how all of this is broken down. So you have perspective processing, which is your cognitive core. And when data is received by your cognitive core, it has to go through a filtering process. Now, if you aren't using boundaries, you're not going to filter everything. You're going to instead internalize it, and it's going to go right into your learning center. So filtering is actually boundaries. Boundaries are your filtering process. Without them, You basically take in 100% of everything and you learn it. And that's just it, is you're learning 100% of everything. You are learning, so 100% of everything. So you are learning, for example, you are learning opinions as if they were fact. You are learning misinformation. This is where gullibility comes from. Is because you basically lack boundaries, so you are processing everything and you are making it about, okay, let's internalize this. Let's put it into our database. So you are literally junking up your perspective. Now, if you have a logical core center, and we all do, your logical core center then gets contradiction. And the contradiction leads to cognitive dissonance. And the cognitive dissonance, in order to help you function better, creates an invasive perspective. And the invasive perspective gives way for the emotional mental environment, EME, emotional mental environment. And that emotional mental environment is now a gorgeous, perfect ecosystem, a mental ecosystem for mental illnesses to develop. Your mental ecosystem. This is the fun part. I love this stuff. So you have a mental ecosystem that is now contaminated and ripe for developing behavioral defenses, aka mental illnesses. So there's the pathway. That's it right there. That is the pathway that gets you from having healthy lifestyle to mentally distraught. Is basically the cognitive dissonance from the logical fallacy, because you are taking in information that is so incorrect that it's contradicting your logical truth. And because of that logical truth, you now have contradiction, which creates cognitive dissonance, which now creates a toxic emotional mental environment where evasive perspectives develop, so that you have a mental ecosystem now that is ripe for developing behavioral defenses, aka mental illness. So let's go back to the over-internalization. We are supposed to internalize when we learn. It's like a kind of hyper learning due to trauma. It is as if the subconscious mind detects an emergency and your safety is on the line. It is as if the subconscious mind says, we need to learn this fast so we can survive. So hyper learning kicks in. It is as if the learning is on steroids. That's what it feels like. That is exactly what it feels like. What I am doing right now is called logical argument. I'm building up the logical conclusive argument to draw one connection to the other based on logical feelings. Feelings are logical. And I am checking it against what logically makes sense. And I am basically forming and collecting premise, putting the premise together to form a logical conclusion. So that when you follow the logical behavior and the logical action of the subconscious mind and emotions, understanding how psychology and sociology works together, then you'll be able to basically draw a logical path from A to B. When you can draw the logical pathways, you have logical sounding argument, a logical truth. A false or a lack of logic in this logical truth or this logical lineup creates logical fallacy. When you have logical fallacy, you have a false conclusion. False conclusions are what we refer to in the common tongue as toxic beliefs. Toxic beliefs are logical fallacies. Once you understand the logic and the reasoning behind our actions, you have understanding. Understanding removes the mental illness and It can't take hold. All mental illness exists because of logical fallacy. That's how you cure mental illness. You just need logic. Now, basically, you have this hyper learning that kicks in, and it's as if we have to learn a whole lot of information very, very quickly. Now, we learn, the process of learning is mimic, repetition, and then internalization. Why is this heightened? That's my question. Why is this heightened, aside from speed and importance for survival? What is bypassed? That's it. This is it. Is how is internalizing done with trauma versus without trauma? Filtration, timing. That's another big one. There's definitely a filtration system. There's definitely timing. There's pausing and reflecting. Evaluation, that's something that's lost. So you lose filtering, you lose filtering. The timing, yeah, you lose timing. You have less time to process. You lose the time to pause and reflect, and you lose the ability to evaluate. So it's like your reaction time. That's all it is. Your reaction time is increased. Now, why? Why is your reaction time increased? You're at war. There's guns fighting. You have to increase. And we do this also when we are in a car accident. We hit something, there's a problem, and boom, our reaction time is decreased significantly. That is the difference. Let's stick with the car example. You have a car, you're driving down the road, you're going 60 miles an hour. God, I love math and physics. So you're going 60 miles an hour, and there is something in the road. You have to swerve. Now, your reaction time is now significantly dropped in half. We're talking at the speed of travel. Now, let's assume we are going 10 miles an hour. We have a greater reaction time. What is it with the speed? Because this is absolutely about the speed. What is it? I want to say it's unpredictability. Unpredictability. Now we're getting back into the story sickness. Unpredictability. Oh, there it is. There it is. Unpredictability, unpredictability, unpredictability. There it is. It's right there under unpredictability. Predictions, 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 predictions. Oh, I'm close. I'm close. I'm close. I'm close. This is story sickness. This is story sickness. Let's go back over to the story sickness. Oh, this is it. This is it. This is it. I know it and I can feel it and I'm close. So story sickness is basically we have assumption, we have exaggeration, and we have, why am I doing it here? Okay, so we have story sickness. We have assumption, and we have exaggeration, and we have improbable fictions. But there's another one, improbable fictions. Okay, now assumptions is when we create understanding. Create understanding for the past. Those are assumptions. When we have exaggeration, we are seeking to create understanding in the present. And when we have improbable fictions, we are seeking to create understanding for the future. Now, there is where predictability comes in. Predictability, predictability. The future, the future, the future. It's the future to the past. It's the future to the present. It's the present to the future, present to the future. It is as if the reaction time, the future is happening a lot faster. That's what it is. Oh, let's go back to time. Let's take a look at physics. Time in physics, time in physics. See, time is not an actual block of time. We have that wrong. It's actually a dimension, which means, so time is actually dimension. There's the dimension of now, the dimension of past, the dimension of what is to be. So it's just the dimensions moving through us. So I am standing here and a dimension just moved. Now, how, story sickness, there you go, story sickness. So how quickly, how soon, let's use the word soon, how soon the future dimension becomes the present dimension. That's really what we're looking at here. We require predictability. So we can dance with efficiency. Have to know the steps. Have to know the dance. If you don't know the dance, what happens if we don't know the dance? Well, we misstep. Messing up the dance equals abuse, rejection, loss, suffering. There it is. So messing up the dance equals to abuse, rejection, loss, suffering. Which means ultimate core fear is it is not safe to make mistakes. There it is. That's the core belief. All right, let's go back up to holy fucking shit. We internalize because it's not safe to make mistakes. It is a self-preservation of avoiding mistakes. People pleasing. We are seeking to avoid displeasing others. So we internalize in an attempt perfectionism. Oh, there it is. Okay, so internalization is a kind of perfectionism. That is what it is. When you internalize, by the way, everything I just did there, typing this out, was in fact, that's it. I was internalizing it. Now, when I spoke to my neuroscientist friend, my dear Maury, he said to me, when you write, you are inventing new memory pathways. Now, I have had amnesia my whole life because of the multiple personality disorder. I have had amnesia my whole life because of trauma amnesia. In fact, most amnesias are trauma-based. Very rarely are they. If you have a forgetful memory, it's your subconscious mind is at work, working. Basically, it's not safe to remember this. The subconscious mind has created a network of lies to basically keep you safe. But that requires other illogics or basically contradictions of the logical fallacy. There you go. Contradictions of the logical fallacy have to be shelved away so that you can function for the logical fallacies to work. That's it. Oh, that's it right there. That's beautiful. That's it right there. So when you have a logical fallacy, there are now truths that you can't remember that contradict that logical fallacy. So the subconscious mind will systematically remove the logical contradiction of the logical fallacy and tuck them away. So now you have sieve brain. Now you can't remember shit. Now you have amnesia. So because of that, I went out of my way to write everything down so I can keep my train of thought, so I internalize it, so I remember, because my memory is something that I'm constantly contending with. And my neuroscientist friend explained that I write when I talk because I am inventing new memory pathways, and I'm doing it at an exponential rate so that I can internalize. Now, as I'm doing this, as I'm writing it all down, pen to paper and all that jazz, I'm internalizing what it is I'm trying to say to you. And what that's doing is basically taking it's a kind of learning. It's mimic, repetition, internalization. Internalization requires memory pathways. So the reason why we over internalize is it is perfectionism. It is self-perfectionism. There you go. So if you over internalize, you have a severe case of self-perfectionism because you can't afford to make a mistake. You can't afford to not predict what's coming. This leads to social anxiety. This leads to, oh God, this is so beautiful. This is it right here. This leads to social anxiety. This leads to self-hatred and self-loathing. This leads to inhuman expectations that guarantee failure. Wow, that's it. All because of the perfectionism. So internalization becomes a defense mechanism. Wow. Holy fucking shit. This is where it gets fun for me. Let's go 20 minutes. I'm 20 minutes into this. So I'm going to put here 20 minutes so you guys can take a look here. Watch this. So basically, when the defense system goes down, when the defense system goes down, this is 100% about how we manage. Where did that go? I put that in the wrong place. Yeah, I'm glad I checked because I immediately started to put that in the wrong place and that would have messed up my notes. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. Okay, so when the defense system goes down, it changes the defense system. The defense system is your communication system and your boundaries. I didn't realize that it alters it. It evolves it. It changes the defense system and it evolves into a hyper learning. How do I explain this with words? When the defense system goes down, basically when you fail to set a boundary, I thought the fear system just kicked on, but it's more than that. The fear system doesn't just kick on. The defense system changes. It's like a locust, like a red locust. It's exactly like a red locust. It changes the defense system and it evolves into hyper learning. God, perfectionism is definitely somewhere in this. It's perfectionism. It's a need to predict future quickly, to prevent harm to the self by establishing a deep need priority, a deep priority for perfectionism. So it's like a red locust. It needs to predict the future quickly to prevent harm to the self by establishing a deep priority for perfectionism. But if the defense system is working overtime as predict the future, it can't keep us safe in the present. Son of a fucking bitch. So the defense system, I see what happened. The defense system evolves from present defense to future defense. Ouch. And the fear system becomes future defense. Wow. Hence story sickness and improbable fictions. All right. This makes sense because we are dimension walkers. That makes so much sense. And here is the fallacy. Here is the fallacy. If I can't protect myself in the present moment, then I will protect myself in the future. There it is. There it is. Yes! All right. That is it. That is the core. It is the concept that if you cannot protect yourself in the present moment, then it has to shift into the future to get ahead of the game. This is why we do story sickness. This is why we have perfectionism. This is why we internalize. This is why we have a fear system that hyper focuses on all the what ifs. This is why we have the let's try and predict the outcome of what. This is why I studied psychology. It's because you fail to protect yourself in the present now, in the moment of now. So instead of trying to get hands-on and protect yourself in the now, you live in the future. The problem is cognitive dissonance. You live in the present moment, but your mind is split between the future and the present. So you are now cognitive dissonance, living in two logical places at the same time, which is why you have trauma. Boom! There it is. God, that feels so much better. Okay, now what's projection? Projection, that's also defense. That is, that's a whole nother creature. Oh, and I'm at 30 minutes. So I'm going to shut this down. I got to process this so I can internalize it, because processing is internalizing. All right. Thank you. If you love shit like this, like, subscribe, follow, comment below. Let me know what part of the show resonates with you. And if you want to learn more about what I offer and what I do, take a look at the link tree below. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.